Namaste everyone. Thank you for joining in this video. And this video is about the upcoming solar eclipse on the 20th of April. And it's going to impact a lot of people in India as well as outside of India. So if you're watching this video, then before we get into the meat of the topic, kindly subscribe to the channel, like the content, and if you find it useful towards the end, please share it with your friends and family. Okay, so as I said, this video is about the upcoming solar eclipse 2023. And eclipses are eclipses, all eclipses, whether it's a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse, they contain a very unsettling form of energy. That means eclipses are the harbingers of change in your life. And no one really knows how an eclipse is going to change you and the environment around you. But the impacts of eclipses are always very, very profound. Okay. And eclipses will always occur in cycles. Okay. That means eclipses get repeated after a certain period of time. And the time period is 18.6 years. So after every 18 years, 6 months, an eclipse repeats itself. And the theme of a repeating eclipse again plays out in our lives the way that it played out earlier. Okay. So this is the very first eclipse of the Hindu New Year. Okay. And that's how things are. Okay. And I just want to share my screen so that I can tell you the impact of this eclipse. Just hold on here. Okay, so I hope you can see the screen here. So this eclipse is going to happen on the 20th of April, 2023. It happens at 7:04 a.m. in the morning. Okay, and the place is my current place where I'm based at Guwahati in Assam, India. Okay, and you have to change your location as well as your latitudes and longitudes to see how it is going to impact you. But this is the chart that I get if I make the chart, if I cast the chart at the start of the eclipse. Okay, so it happens 4 minutes after 7 o'clock in the morning. And this is the chart. Okay, and you see, every eclipse, every solar eclipse has a theme that plays out. And here the theme will be, the theme involves sun and moon will of course be involved in any kind of eclipse. Okay, and eclipse happen in a new moon cycle. That means it represents the ending of old things and the beginning of new things. Okay, and you see, every eclipse carries a theme with yourself and the theme with itself. That's it. And the theme of this eclipse is, will be governed by Mercury as well as Rahu. Okay, and the other themes will be governed by planets that are eyeing the spot of eclipse. So Aries is the hot spot where the eclipse occurs, and this is Aries is being looked at by Saturn as well as Ketu. Okay, so coming to the theme of eclipses, as I said, eclipses, they have a profound impact on our lives. And the impact of eclipses are usually felt almost 28 days before the eclipse and 20 days after the eclipse. Okay, but you can be sure that these eclipses, they are going to bring permanent changes in your life. Okay, and these changes, the lessons will be learned after you see the change, after you live the change. Okay, so it's a very unsettling time, as I said. And if you look at the involvement of the planets that are involved in this eclipse, it is Mercury and Rahu. Okay, apart from the sun. So the sun, of course, has entered Aries on the 14th of April. That marks the advent of Mesha Sankranti, and it is New Year celebration in most parts of India. Okay, but then you look at the other planets which are involved in the eclipse. It is Rahu and Mercury. Okay, now Mercury is all about contracts. Okay, it's all about contracts, particularly short-term contracts, but it can also include long-term contracts as well. Okay, and because Jupiter is very, very close to the very, very close to Aries, it's almost about to enter Aries. So even Jupiter will have a he'll have a bit of a say in the eclipse matters, or whatever unfolds after the eclipse. Okay, but first we look at Rahu and Mercury and what they mean in this, what does this combination means here. Okay, so Mercury, as I told you, is the planet of contracts, and it represents all sorts of business agreements. It represents all sorts of cash flows. Okay, so what happens is, when you have a planet like Mercury, it means you're trying to make an agreement. Okay, and Mercury is someone it's Mercury, it's a planet that does not give a damn about fairness. Okay, Venus is all about fairness. It's about give and take relationships. But Mercury does not give a damn about fairness. Okay, it's about making an agreement anyways. Okay, and that agreement can be extremely selfish, or that agreement can be very altruistic as well. Okay, that means you can get into a situation where you are making an agreement with someone for meeting your own selfish reasons, or it could be a situation where you're making an agreement so that someone along with you has an equal profit in the outcome of the agreement. Or it could be an agreement where you don't have any, you don't have any agenda. You are making that agreement for the benefit of someone. Okay, but because Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, so what it means is this agreement is an agreement that you make with yourself first before you translate it to others. Okay, say for example, I have a piece of land that I want to develop, and I'm making an agreement with myself that I'll give this piece of land to a friend of mine who will develop it, and in return he will give me a stake in that building which is built on that land. Okay, now the reason for making that agreement could be multiple. I could be eager to help out my friend, right? I could be eager to ensure that both me and my friend have a equal share in the profit that comes up after I make the agreement with him. Or it could be that, I don't have anything to gain from this agreement. I'm making this agreement entirely for the benefit of my friend. Or it could be that, I'm planning that after the building is built, I'll not give anything to that friend of mine. I'll take everything for myself and leave him high and dry. Okay, so the reason for the agreement could be anything, but then I'd be very careful because Rahu is there, and Rahu means breaking taboos, breaking boundaries. Okay, so whatever agreement you make, you can be sure that Rahu is going to put its element, the Vata element, into it, and that is going to corrupt the agreement. Okay, so it's like making a deal with the devil. Okay, so let's say you have made a deal with the devil for 10 years, and the devil has promised to bring you unlimited money for those 10 years. But then what happens to you in those 10 years? You will suffer a lot. Okay, so whatever agreements you make, I can only caution you, ensure that you don't suffer because of those agreements. Okay, because Rahu there can ensure that you will not be in the best of your mental abilities while making it an agreement. Okay, you can make an agreement on a premise which is completely fake, maybe, or maybe on a premise where you don't know the full story, because Rahu is illusions. So you can end up making an agreement or a very illusionary premise, and then bang your head later on, because that agreement which is made on illusionary premise usually leads to a loss. Okay, so it's about making an agreement with yourself, as I said, but before making an agreement with others, ensure that you know the complete terms and conditions or clauses of such an agreement. Okay, ensure that you don't cheat others through such an agreement. Ensure that you don't get cheated with such an agreement. Okay, so it's very, very important. All right, now Rahu also represents technology. Okay, and Mercury represents cash flow. So it could be an agreement where you are making a deal with an organization that is providing you with a new technology that will help you in your business, that will help you in the current work that you are doing. Okay, I know a businessman who made an agreement. He fired 5 of his employees, and he invested heavily into artificial intelligence, and now he is set to give his business a new direction. So it could be an agreement in that order as well. Okay, now the other planets involved are, of course, the sign the owner of the sign where this eclipse is taking place. So it is Mars. Okay. So you can be well, you can rest assured that this agreement is going to bring you conflict. Okay. Because Mars stands for conflict. Okay. And Mars also stands for urgency. Mars also stands for fighting for those things which are very dear to you. Okay. So if you make an agreement, you will ensure that because Mars is involved here. Okay, Mars is not involved by aspect. Mars is involved as the owner of the sign. So you will ensure that this agreement is followed to the T. Okay, every letter, every word of this agreement is followed, even if it means getting into conflict with others as a result of making this agreement. Okay, but then as I said, Mars is a planet of violence. So you must remember that all conflicts need not end with violence. Okay, but be sure that there would be some heated arguments for the sake of fulfilling that agreement, for the sake of making that agreement. You may end up displeasing a lot of people for, while making that agreement. Okay, maybe you could end up displeasing your siblings because Mars also stands for siblings. Maybe you would end up displeasing your friends because Mercury stands for friends. So, you'd know you are the best judge of your life. So you'd know, which point this eclipse is going to take you. Okay, and that is the purpose of this video, to educate you, as to where the eclipse is going to take you. Okay, now the other planet that is involved, of course, is Saturn. And this is the difficult part. Okay, because Saturn is the planet of loss. Saturn is the planet of grief. Saturn is the planet of death. So while making this agreement, you can be sure that the premise for making this agreement would be something that is no longer working. Okay, so you'll be forced to make this agreement because maybe you tried something which did not work, and now you're trying to discard the old and bring in the new, because Mars represents new beginnings. Aries always represents new beginnings. Okay, so whatever agreement you are making with, with regards to technology, or with regards to breaking boundaries, or with regards to, out of the box solutions, it'll always be to discard the old and start the new. Okay, and because Jupiter is also involved, so this agreement could bring in a clash of your philosophies. Okay, maybe you are into a business which you have inherited from your father, and your father was I'm just giving you an example. Say you are in a business where you are involved with your father, and your father, say, has always invested heavily on people, on labor, but now you know that such a theme is not going to work for you or for the business in the long run, and you, in one shot, you just fire all the laborers and you invest heavily in technology, which brings in some amount of conflict, with your father, some amount of conflict with the people whom you have fired. And then say the firm which is supposed to provide you with technology, that firm did not lay out the terms and conditions clearly. So you have invested heavily into the technology, and now whatever you are getting is not equivalent to whatever you have invested. So you may get into a conflict with the people who are providing you, or who have promised to provide you with the technology. Okay, so such things are going to play out in everyone's lives. Okay, as I said, life is the best teacher, and you know where your life is going to take you. Okay, on a global scale, this could lead to conflicts between countries because Mars is involved, and whenever Mars and Saturn are involved, they usually represent a lot of urgency. Okay, so you can see businesses making heavy investments into technology, which is of course represented by Rahu, and those heavy investments can bring some amount of conflict with the people because Saturn represents the masses. Okay, so all of a sudden you might feel that a country is investing too much into technology by maybe discarding or changing the old labor laws, and the people are now forced to work for something which are very detrimental to their cause, and that can lead to a conflict, that can lead to a protest from the masses, because as I said, Saturn is involved here, and Saturn always represents the masses. Okay, similarly, it could also lead to wars and other escalations because Mars, as I said, it represents conflict, and if a conflict is not resolved through discussion, it will of course be resolved on the battlefield. Okay, so the impact will be very, very different, as I said, depending on your chart and where the eclipse is happening. Okay, and the special attention must also be paid for those people having Mercury as Atmakaraka or Mercury as Lagna Lord. Okay, because there the theme of this eclipse, which is agreements with the devil. Basically, the theme of this eclipse is agreement with the devil, right? So this theme is going to play out heavily in your lives in the next, in the next 12 months to, 18 months. Okay, and this theme, of making a deal with the devil can, of course, catapult you to a new height, because Rahu also represents obsession. Rahu also represents the great reflection. Okay, so it may catapult you into new heights, but then it may also bring you crashing down after some time. Okay, so be very careful when you make agreements, because the first agreement, as I said, is the one that you make with yourself. Okay, and only then the agreements with others come in. So while making agreements with yourself, be very, very careful. Okay, and Rahu also represents the jungle. Rahu also represents breaking taboos, and wherever Rahu sits in the chart, you have to explore that area alone. Okay, suppose Rahu sits in the second house, so you may not have much idea about how to make wealth. You may not have much idea about how to run a family. So you have to explore that theme alone in this lifetime. So since Rahu is involved in this eclipse, so that agreement could be, regarding an area where Rahu is sitting in your horoscope. Say Rahu, again, as an example, say Rahu is sitting in the 10th house. And what is the 10th house? It is the house of fame. So it could be an agreement where you are entering a deal with someone to make you more famous. Okay. Say Rahu is sitting in the 7th house of relationships. So it could be an agreement with someone where you are looking for an intimacy. Okay. Maybe a business agreement with a person of the opposite gender, where the concern is not profiting from the business, but profiting from intimacy. Okay, so you have to look forward as to what theme Rahu is representing in the chart, and all the agreements that you make, the theme of Rahu is going to play out very prominently. Okay, say, let's say Rahu is in the 2nd house of your chart and this eclipse is happening. So there could be an agreement where you are making a deal with yourself to earn money by any means possible. Okay, you are making a deal with yourself to earn money by discarding the old ways which are not working for you anymore. Because as I said, Saturn is being involved in this eclipse. Okay, so Saturn represents things that no longer work. So you'll be discarding those things which no longer work and adopting new things. And that adaptation can happen through a lot of conflict because Mars is involved. So if you have a 2nd house Rahu, it could mean you are making an agreement with yourself to earn more money. And by discarding the old ways which are used by you to earn money. But now, because the new ways are not acceptable to your family or maybe to your loved ones, you may get into a conflict with your family members or with your loved ones regarding the ways and means that you're using to earn money. Okay, so this will play out on a worldly level as well. And let's see what themes will be affected, depending on where the eclipse is happening. Say Aries falls in the 1st house of your chart. In that case, you will make an agreement to, you will make an agreement where you would be investing more in your health. Okay, with regards to your health. So you have tried out a new exercise, which, you have been working out for the last 10 years, 12 years, and now you want to, work out in new ways. Okay, you want to invest. Suppose you have been jogging for the last 10 years. Now you would want to invest in a jogging, in a walking machine or in a home jogging machine. So that is how you look at it. Okay, so if Aries is falling in the 2nd house, then this agreement with yourself would be towards making money, towards starting a family. Okay, maybe you would make an agreement where you want to learn a new language, right? So I know this person who is having Rahu in the 2nd house, and his eclipse is occurring in the, whose eclipse is occurring in the 2nd house itself, and he is making an agreement where he is trying to learn Japanese. He has already enrolled in a Japanese course. The course is promising to, to land him a job, in a high-paying job in Japan. Okay, so he's doing that for increasing his wealth, for increasing his income. Okay, suppose this eclipse is happening in the 3rd house. In that case, what happens is you would make agreements where there could be, changes with regards to your subordinates, with regards to your siblings, with regards to your travel. Suppose the third house represents, short distance travel. So you could be investing in technology like a new car or a new bike which allows you to travel in lesser time as possible. Okay. Suppose the eclipse is happening in the fourth house. Suppose Aries falls in your fourth house. Then the agreement would be more about making a, deal for your happiness, making a deal for your conveniences, making a deal with your mother, maybe. If it is happening in the fifth house, because Jupiter and energy is involved, so there could be some changes that you make an agreement with regards to your children. Okay, with regards to your romantic relationships. Suppose the eclipse is happening in your sixth house. In that case, you may have to, discard the old ways of being healthy, because sixth house also represents your immune system. Maybe there could be some agreements that you come into with your servants or with people who work under you, or with the people who work with you, your colleagues. Okay. If it is happening in the seventh house, then this agreement could be, towards coming into a new relationship, or towards coming into a new sort of, new business partnership, which also involves physical intimacy with your business partner. If it is happening in the eighth house, then this agreement could be, about inheriting the properties of your parents, or maybe getting help from your in-laws. Okay. If it is happening in the ninth house, then this agreement could be this agreement between Rahu and Mercury, involving Mars and Saturn, could be that, you are leaving you are seeking out new teachers or new gurus to add to your knowledge, to expand your knowledge. Okay. Maybe you are changing courses, you're changing universities, you're changing schools, and so on. If it is in the 10th house, then this agreement is more about, about your karma, about changing your karma, that helps you to earn fame, that helps you to become more wealthy as such. If this eclipse is happening in the 11th house, then this agreement would be leading you towards, towards making new friends, discarding old network circles, involving new people in the network, or getting into the network of new people, and so on. Okay. If this is happening in the 12th house, then maybe, you make an agreement that you'd be making 2 to 3 pilgrimages this year. Or maybe say, I have seen this happening. There is a client of mine who's having this eclipse in the 12th house, and he wants to go to Vaishno Devi. Okay. And he said that, I've gone there every time walking. This time I'll go in helicopter. So he's changing the technology to travel to a pilgrimage place. Okay. So these are just basic examples as how this eclipse is going to affect you. And as I said, the effects are going to be long lasting, and you would be changed as a person. You'll no longer be the same person before the eclipse as you would be after the eclipse. Okay. So be ready for evolution, be ready for growth. Okay. And growth is a part of life. Change is a part of life. Accepting the change is a bigger part of life. And if you don't accept the change, then because Mars and Saturn are involved, they are going to make you accept the change anyway, no matter how much you resist it. Okay. So the remedy is to be open to making changes. The remedy is to resolve conflicts, not through, wars, not through fights. Okay. The remedy would be to try and resolve conflicts through discussions, through discussing by sitting on a table. Okay. The remedy would be not to cheat others. The remedy would also be not to get cheated. Okay. So this was my take on the solar eclipse. And as I said, it's going to turn out differently for each one of you, okay, who is watching the video. And if you want a consultation regarding your chart and how the eclipse is going to affect the themes in your life, kindly reach out to me for a consultation. I'll be really, really happy to help you out. Okay. So that's it from me in this video. Kindly leave behind your valuable feedback in the comment section and let me know if you have any queries or doubts after this video. Okay. I'll see you soon in yet another video. Namaste. Om Gurave Namaha.